My wife started running, and it, drone, began turning at us. The car was right there. I was trying to show it. Like, look, it's just vegetables. There's nothing military here.
A Russian drone turned a busy market into a deadly hunting ground in broad daylight. One moment he was selling vegetables. The next he was running for his life from a drone. Shocking footage captures a desperate chase as a civilian tries to outrun a Russian drone in Kherson. Ukraine calls it another Russian war crime as Moscow intensifies attacks and pounds Kyiv again. A horrifying video showed a Russian FPV drone chasing a vegetable seller through a market in Ukraine's southern city of Kherson before attacking him in broad daylight. Kherson police said the drone repeatedly circled 52-year-old Yuri before diving toward him and exploding beside his vehicle during the August 4th attack. Yuri survived the drone strike with shrapnel wounds and a concussion, according to Reuters, after the explosion narrowly missed killing him.
My wife started running, and it, drone, began turning at us. The car was right there. I was trying to show it. Like, look, it's just vegetables. There's nothing military here. But then it started coming straight at me. So I started running, trying to show it, saying, look. My wife ran off. She was shouting, where should I run to? But where are you supposed to run? It's open steppe. There's nowhere to go. To a bomb shelter? Honestly, that wasn't on my mind at the time. It's terrifying, of course. Really terrifying. Well, as you can see, it was circling directly over the car and over me too. It hit the car, and I was right beside it. Basically, we ended up on the same height. Then it struck and I just fell down. After that I noticed the car. About 5 minutes later it was on fire, and the guys were trying to put it out. This is actually the second time this happened. The first time I was driving to my mother-in-law's place. There was a police report then too. The sunroof was hit. We managed to get away that time, and no one was hurt. The police were there documenting everything. We repaired it and carried on. We don't really have another vehicle to work with. We needed to transport goods.
The footage was widely shared as what Ukrainian officials described as another example of Russia's alleged human safari drone tactics against civilians. Kherson police claimed Russian drone operators had deliberately hunted civilians for years, saying such attacks had become a persistent threat in the region. Police spokesman Andriy Kovanyi said similar drone attacks occurred almost every day, although only a small number were captured on camera. Kovanyi also alleged that Russian forces had published some of their own drone videos despite accusations that civilians were being targeted. Residents said FPV drones, glide bombs and constant artillery attacks had transformed daily life into a struggle for survival across Kherson. Locals said they now dash between buildings, shelter beneath trees and constantly monitor drone alerts before venturing outside. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the world must see what he described as evidence of Russia's continued abuse of civilians during the war. Volodymyr Zelensky said, and I quote, "Today, many were shocked by yet another video of the drone safari Russians are carrying out against civilians in Kherson. A Russian drone deliberately hunted down a man selling vegetables and detonated right next to him. The Russians even admitted to the crime, showing zero regret and openly boasting about tormenting people. The man was wounded in the blast. Every single day, ordinary people in Kherson face these Russian safaris. The world must see this. It must see every piece of evidence that Russia has gone mad and that its soldiers take pleasure in killing and abusing civilians. Without pressure on Russia, the dismantling of its capacity for aggression, and real security guarantees, it is simply impossible to imagine the world being able to coexist with this evil." Ukrainian officials say Russia launched a mix of ballistic missiles and drones at Kyiv in the early hours of August 5th, triggering citywide air raid sirens. At least one person was killed and 12 more injured in the strikes on the Ukrainian capital, according to initial figures from local authorities. Reports from Kyiv describe damaged residential buildings, shattered windows, and debris strewn across the streets after the impacts. Authorities say some of the injuries were caused not by direct hits, but by falling glass and shrapnel from missiles that were intercepted overhead. Kyiv's mayor says the latest attack has disrupted power supplies and critical infrastructure across the city, adding yet another layer of pressure for utility crews. Timur Tkachenko said, and I quote, "Enemy is once again massively attacking the Kyiv region. The consequences of the enemy attack are being recorded in the Bucha, Brovary, and Fastiv districts of the region. I urge everyone, do not ignore air raid sirens. Take care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your family." Unquote. Kyiv's military administration says one woman was killed and at least 12 other people were wounded in the attacks, according to the BBC. Ukrainian air defenses reportedly shot down several incoming projectiles during the barrage, though not all could be intercepted. This latest strike is part of Russia's continuing campaign of missile and drone attacks on Kyiv, a grinding air war now measured in hundreds of munitions fired each night. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned that Vladimir Putin could order the mobilization of more than 500,000 additional troops after Russia's September elections, potentially setting the stage for a major escalation in the war. Despite sustaining heavy battlefield losses over more than 4 years of fighting, Vladimir Putin has vowed to intensify Russia's military campaign and continue pursuing Moscow's territorial ambitions in Ukraine. According to Ukrainian estimates, Russia has suffered around 1.4 million casualties since launching its full-scale invasion in February 2022, highlighting the enormous human cost of the prolonged conflict. Available estimates indicate that nearly 500,000 Russian troops may have been killed since the war began, though casualty figures remain disputed and cannot be independently verified. Some reports claim that newly deployed Russian frontline soldiers survive an average of just 20 minutes in the most intense combat zones, underscoring the brutal conditions on parts of the battlefield. President Zelensky has argued that Vladimir Putin will end the war only if Russia is militarily forced to do so, insisting that sustained pressure remains the only path to lasting peace. Ukraine has stepped up long-range strikes deep inside Russian territory, aiming to disrupt military operations and demonstrate that the consequences of the war can also be felt beyond the front lines. During its summer campaign, Kyiv has increasingly targeted military airfields, logistics hubs, fuel depots, and other strategic infrastructure in an effort to weaken Russia's operational capabilities. Ukrainian officials say these long-range operations have slowed Russia's battlefield momentum, forcing Moscow to divert additional resources toward defending critical infrastructure inside its own territory. At the same time, President Zelensky says Ukraine is preparing for yet another difficult winter, as the prolonged conflict continues to strain the country's military, economy, and civilian population. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky is reportedly seeking a face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin to revive stalled peace efforts. Zelensky's advisor has announced that the Ukrainian president is prepared to hold direct talks with Vladimir Putin if conditions are met. Mikhailo Podolyak claimed Volodymyr Zelensky is pushing for a comprehensive ceasefire covering both aerial bombardments and ground combat operations. According to reports, Ukraine is now looking to begin what it describes as complex negotiations with the Russian side to end the war. Zelensky has also called for a complete halt to Russian missile and drone strikes targeting Ukraine's critical energy infrastructure. In addition, Kyiv is reportedly seeking a full suspension of hostilities, with fighting across the front line brought to a complete standstill. The renewed diplomatic push comes as Trump's top diplomat reportedly claimed Washington wants Russia and Ukraine to return to peace negotiations once again.